Morning, everybody. I hope you're in good humor, good spirits, and good health. Today, I want to share a lesson that I shared with my kids. And for some of the older folks, maybe life has already given you this lesson. My kids are at the start, and so I don't know if they have to learn on their own or they can learn from this, or even if them having grown up different than I did means they may not go through this at all. So I grew up feeling like I couldn't trust people, that no one loved me, um, and that people would leave me. And that made me like really insecure. If I had a girlfriend, I would believe she was going to leave me because everybody leaves me and no one loves me. I would do things that pushed them away. And then when they left, I would say, see, you're right. No one loves you. Everybody leaves you. And so when I finally had, I would say, the first meaningful girlfriend, and she dumped me because, I was insecure, pushed her away, and like just unstable, and when I was young, I might have been, pretty. Um, and that's probably all I had going for me, if that. Um, and so when she dumped me, because this was like the closest girlfriend I'd ever had, it triggered that, just this rage and depression that like almost broke me. I made a big mess of myself over that. And, as a result, I was forced to learn a lot of lessons. And so, fast forward, to the next significant relationship and breakup, with a few smaller ones in between. And it was me getting dumped. The breakups weren't like, oh, I'm tired of you. It would be me getting dumped. Because I do think, looking back, that some of those relationships were with like incredibly good women, and by good, I mean like good for me. I believe they loved me. They wanted to be with me, support me, build something with me. And I was just incapable of it. I didn't believe in myself. I always believed no one loved me. And and that, I was misunderstood. And so when I was dumped, all that magnified, all that seemed to validate that that was true about me. And believing that even more made me worse. But then the next time, I experienced similar heartbreak, I felt that about me because I knew a lot of it was it was my fault. I was kicking it and just a selfish person. Um, and so when that happened, I got depressed, and I believe depression is anger turns inwards. So if you're depressed, it means, at least in my understanding, that you're mad at yourself for something. You didn't do something. And for me, what I used to tell myself is, see, that's what you get for being stupid and thinking someone's going to love you. That's what you get for being stupid and thinking that you could do this. Those were the inner voices. And somehow with this other one, and what I had also changed is that I had a kid now. And I wanted to be an example for that child. Um, when that breakup happened, something in me got mad, at myself, because I did get depressed. I had these neighbors across the street that they were cool. He was a tall, skinny black dude, and she was a short, hella overweight white girl. And they had pit bulls, and they were always smoking Bammer and just chilling. And like, man, they let me lean on them. And, like, they would even bring me food when this breakup happened. And I was just in this empty house. And so much love to them, Sedbo and dang, I don't remember her name. They were hella cool though. Jen, I think. Yeah, it was Jen. But anyways, at some point I thought, you get treated like this, you get dumped, you're not wanted because you don't have nothing to offer really. And I made a video before where I asked this actual person that broke up with me, I said, why are you even with me? And she said, because you're good looking, you're handsome, you're attractive. And that shit was all so shallow to me. Like, damn, I don't make you laugh. I don't have a kindness for others that you admire. Like, all these qualities, like, none of that was there. And so her saying that, like, really made me feel like just empty inside, just a shell. And so I decided that I was tired of me getting dumped, and I was going to do something about it. And so what I was going to do was rise to the top. And so not knowing any other way, I went and signed up for school. And I got stories on that where, the first essay I wrote was an F. The ones after that were A's. I got all these kudos on being a good writer. That made me feel empowered. I kept going and going. Eventually I got an AA. I got a job at a better place that led to a great career. Because I was dumped and I didn't want to get dumped no more. And I felt like I didn't want to be depressed either. And I was mad at me because I wasn't doing nothing with my life. And that's why I felt people could treat me that way. People could say, we don't want you, and throw you away when, maybe they were done playing with you. And again, you know what? That's anger speaking, because I think almost all of them genuinely loved me. They weren't playing with me. Or maybe they had love mixed up with something else too, and they didn't love me. They just thought I was cute because they couldn't tell me anything I had to offer besides being cute, and that can't be enough. So with that breakup, like, I used that suffering for fuel to grow into something else. And this is when I was younger, so these were like romantic breakups. Now that I'm older, I've experienced a lot of other breakups through natural causes. People that I love, my mom passing away, friends passing away, falling out with family members, not talking to them. A lot of things that lead to a separation. And this is another tidbit that really helped me understand myself and why I was doing some of the things I was doing, or reacting the way I was reacting. So suffering, when you think about it, and I think it's defined in some places like this as an ill feeling caused by wanting something you can't have. So if someone you love passes away, you're crying because you can't have them no more in the capacity you had them. If, you know, anyone you love is separated from you, especially in a tragic way, you're sad because you lose them. You can't have them. When I was younger, it was because, you know, they got tired of my bullshit and I couldn't have them no more. And to be honest, in retrospect, maybe I didn't love them. Maybe I just lusted after them. Maybe, you know, I was suffering because I wasn't gonna, you know, be with them like that no more. And that could have been the case because I didn't love myself at the time. And so that heartbreak fueled me starting a new career, me exploring school. I'd never been to school, like to a college growing up. No one ever told me college was for me, but somehow, you know, this breakup helped fuel me riding my bike to get there. You know, I didn't have a car, walking 4 miles each way sometimes. Sometimes homies drop me off in lowriders, you know what I mean? Family drops me off pounding, boom, booms, you know, pounding the beat, right? And it like, so the community kind of looked out for me and supported it. But a lot of times I was walking by myself, you know, through the hood, fucking packs of dogs out there eyeing you for weakness. And then if you seem weak, them dogs might fucking jump on you and eat you. There'd be like 12 of them. I feel like I learned to read their minds because I could look at them and be like, man, dog, I'm gonna fuck you up. I'm gonna pick you up and slam you on this fence with the spikes on it. And so they would leave me alone, but I way digressed. Anyways, and then, like every time a breakup happened, because you don't change overnight, you know. Someone who changes overnight, I don't know if they really changed or they had a life-changing experience, but change takes a long time, man. If it took you 25 years, 30 years to become this asshole, you ain't gonna change from that asshole in 5 years. You're gonna keep, it's gonna take you a long time, right? But what happened was, when I would get my heart broken, I would suffer. I would suffer. And I would suffer like a lot, like for a whole year straight or something, right? 2 years straight. But during that suffering, I would be doing things to better myself so that it doesn't happen to me again, at least not from this person or people like that are at this level of mindset. And I've always come out ahead now. And so that was the lesson I wanted to teach him that took me all that time. In the beginning, you know, I got my heart broken and it validated all the bad things I believed about myself. And I wanted to die. You know, just, I really wanted to die. The pain was so great. Fast forward to today, after some experience and not dying, like, you know, making it through that. I think if my heart was broken again in that way, I wouldn't suffer any less, but I would go into it knowing that because of that, I'm gonna change. And I can be excited to see who I'm gonna change into. to see who I'm going to become. Those negatives are now positives. And a lot of stuff happened in between. Like I said, accomplishing that school academic goal helped me to love myself. That was an investment in me because I didn't want to be treated poorly anymore. I was going to get an education. And I didn't go far. All I got is an AA. But I plan to continue it. And maybe that's the next growth when, my heart gets broken somewhere else. Not necessarily romantically by my wife. But like even then, she understands that if she was unhappy and she left, that I would survive. That she doesn't have to stay to preserve me. And I think I wanted my kids to know, look, in life, you might get your heart broken. And it seems like the end of the world. But then things get better. And then it might happen again. And it might seem like the end of the world. But if you channel that suffering into something, you lean into it, like Nietzsche would encourage, you can use it as fuel to become a new you. And if it happens again, you get better at becoming a new you. And that makes the good times kind of stretch out, go longer, and maybe even peak higher. Where I kind of like get introspective about it is, I wonder so I would joke, people in the hood, them motherfuckers don't know when to let go. They be at parties throwing blows, and they be together the next day, like physical blows. I used to have these crazy ass neighbors, man. You'd hear yelling at 3 a.m. And him and his girl be in the street, her top's off, Chi-Chi swinging. Be cool, be cool. And she's, nah, motherfucker, I saw you trying to, swinging on him. He's like, be cool, be cool. And her shirt be off. You want some of this? You want to see it? And she'd take it off, and I'll be like, damn, these motherfuckers are crazy. And it was like every weekend. One time that fool came over, he said, hey, fool, I need you to call the cops. Like at 4 a.m. I'm like, what happened, man? He says, call the cops and tell them there's a dead woman over here. I think she died. And not from him beating her, from some, I don't know, from what, alcohol poisoning or some shit. And I said, motherfucker, they're gonna ask how I know she's over there, man. Here, you call them. And she was fine. But when they moved out, Sedbo and Jen moved in. So it was the same house. Or vice versa. Actually, it was the reverse. They moved out and then him and her moved in. But yeah, so that's kind of the difference. The first times felt like the end of the world. No one loves me. I'm a loser. That's why I got dumped. Whoopity whoop whoop. Fast forward at a place where, man, this hurts. But it's not because there's something wrong with me necessarily. And there could be. No one's perfect. But it's also an opportunity to improve. So this doesn't happen. It's less likely to happen again. And, if you could suffer and you understand that you're suffering because you want something you can't have, now you can work on convincing yourself you don't want it, you don't need it. If you convince yourself you're still going to get it somehow, you're still suffering because you still want it and can't have it. So if you learn to let it go, your suffering stops. That's something insightful that could be helpful, just to know that. But the other thing is, if you could suffer, because there ain't nothing wrong with suffering. If I lost someone I loved, I would suffer. But knowing, even going into it, this is going to change me. And I'm going to make sure it changes me in a positive way. The not positive way is, you get your heart broken, you start drinking, or you do drugs. I know people whose whole life changed because, they hit the streets when one of their parents got electrocuted. And so changed their whole life. You know what I mean? That loss and how they responded to it changed the whole trajectory of their life. Mine too. With how I reacted, right? And so there's a way to react where you hurt yourself. You try to replace whoever you lost with just anyone because you're lonely. That's not good for you. Trying to escape the pain and substances, that's not good for you. It's going to put you in a worse place where it's more likely to just keep happening and happening. Whereas if you lean into it and you think, okay, I'm suffering, but this suffering has to change me in a positive way, it'll happen less and less. And even when it happens for reasons out of your control, people can get diseases and pass away that mean the world to you, or get hit by a car or any bullshit, man. There's some fucked up shit out there, man. That Mexican kid that was an A student, that shit was tragic. And so, it could happen, but if when it happens, you go into it conscious of, I'm suffering. This is why I'm suffering, because I don't have them anymore and I want them, but I'm not going to get them back. That's being realistic. If they passed away. Or if they just flat out told you, I don't want you, and they moved on, whatever. But I'm going to use this energy for something to help me grow. Then your life will be rewarding too. See, one of my favorite philosophers, Friedrich Nietzsche, he says that the snake that cannot shed its skin is doomed to die because it suffocates. And that the mind that ceases to consider new things and growth ceases to be a mind, because the mind is supposed to be growing and thinking. And so when I looked at my kids, I saw them and I thought about how much I loved them and how I wanted to protect them from getting their heart broken. And I thought again, because people in the hood, sometimes they don't break up, even if shit's terrible. And I was like that. Like, I would rather be there suffering and fighting in a toxic relationship than believe in myself and be on my own. And because of the decisions I made after the second heartbreak, that I was going to, how dare you treat me like this? Even, and that was my logic. Like, how dare you treat me like this? Who you think you are? I'll show you. And then I was going to go grow and then show them, I came up more than you or something. That was my, like the fuel, the anger. And again, it's not even that they did anything wrong to me. It's just that, I was not in a good place, and I wasn't relationship material. And so, not blaming them. I honestly have apologized to a lot of them. Look, man, I realized you were a good person and I was just screwed up. So I'm sorry. I'm not saying I want you back. I'm just saying I'm sorry. And now being in a place where I would be like, I'm curious who I'm going to be after this. And not that I would even suffer less, but just curious of who I was going to be after that. And then so where I kind of get philosophical about it, I think, or I used to think, did I get my heart broken so many times that now it's just incapable of suffering like that? Or did I get my heart broken and every time I mended it, it got stronger and stronger so that when it does break, it's kind of muscle memory to heal again and keep going forward even better than you were before your heart got broken. Again, lean into that suffering. Know why you're suffering and that you can use that energy to become a better person so that whatever flaw you had that got you dumped, if that's legitimately your fault, not everyone is whatever. I'm saying things you can control, things that are your fault. You can fix those so that it don't happen again for those reasons. For some people, it could just be drinking. Every girl they ever had left them because they were a drunk, and one day they're like, you know what, I ain't gonna drink no more, and see what happens. And they lean into that suffering and say, hey, well, this is why, and so I'm gonna go to these classes instead of stay at home and cry or some shit, and that'll help you. So it's the lessons I gave my kids, and I hope that people can take this lesson that took me 37 years to get to this good point, and maybe avoid a lot of suffering because that shit hurt in the beginning. But much love and have a good one.